Alright, we've got xtrashine and TSR. Dio speed. Who knows who's going to be doing any scarf tricking or scarf taunting or max speed taunting or non-taunting and just attacking or going for hazard stuff here. Depends on the sets. So, spikes, that could just be scarfed. I mean, they could both be scarfed. Okay, neither is scarfed here. Well, actually, no, I take that back. TSRs could still be scarfed, but Extra was looking to break some sashes. And he's going to now get 3 layers as TSR leaves with 2 layers and starts putting the pressure on with Tina O. And he even gets up rocks. I wonder if that means that he's got a backup rocker elsewhere, and if he can get the rocks with DOS, he'll take it, but he's going to prioritize spikes. That's a great setup for it, honestly. I mean, if you can get your early rocks and spikes, great. If not, focus on the spikes and let something else do the rocks for you. I mean, dual rocks is a great strategy in general, but it works perfectly with DOS. So Tina O expects a switch and goes for the EQ. And now Extra has max hazards and in comes a dragon. And I don't agree with that Groudon switch at all, because it's not going to be taking Ray on with hazards. I mean, DOS is just such a perfect sack. I mean, he gets lucky in that it's a Dragon Claw, it's a Life Orb Ray, or rather, it's a Ray without Outrage or Draco Meteor, and it's not banded Dragon Claw, so he can take 2 and get up rocks, and he doesn't even stay in. So now he's just switching around and taking too much damage and not doing anything. So I think DOS was a perfect sack there, and you kind of regain your footing, and then you can go to Groudon after and safely get up rocks or safely get a T-Wave off, that kind of thing. And all this damage is being sustained just switching around trying to survive the Ray, and for the sake of preserving an already chipped DOS. So I think not going for the 3rd layer spikes was also a mistake with TSR's DOS. There was no reason not to do that. I mean, 3rd layer spikes is much, much, much better than the 2nd, whereas the 2nd is barely an upgrade over the 1st. And, what was threatening him from, using the 3rd layer? Extra used E-Speed for 32%, so, now Heatran is in against Dialga, and it protects, so this is just playing too safe when you're already behind. I mean, most Dialga, even if it has Brick Break, then, I mean, what is knowing it's going to have Brick Break going to change? I mean, you still can't switch around it, and most of the time, support Dialgas are not going to be able to hurt it, so just go for Lava Plume. Rocks if you have it, something. And now Extra, instead of risking a Lava Plume burn, has his EQ and Giratina O in for free. So now Extra doubles to Ray, expecting a... Well, I guess he expected maybe like a pit. That's a good move because it covers DOS coming in. But if Giratina makes the ballsy move and switches to... or if TSR makes the ballsy move and switches to his own Giratina, then Ray covers that as well, without necessarily having to risk a Draco thing. Because if Heatran stays in, then it's probably not going to be to go for Lava Plume. So Ray coming in on Tran there is also fine. So covered a lot of options. Good move from Extra. So E-Speed is going to finish this DOS off, and in comes Palkia in revenge. Now Palkia would be really threatening here with more hazards up, and with a defensive core that wasn't so bruised just to do nothing in return. But at this point, this is what makes people think that Palkia is actually, I think it's been getting its due again, but a while ago then I was kind of shocked that people were ranking Palkia solo because it doesn't outspeed and OHKO entire teams. But you can't use it as that kind of hole patcher, and so far that's going to bring you back a game you were losing. That's not the kind of Pokemon it is. So, and it's cool thing there is that it is astonishingly good at bluffing Scarf, even though people... Well, one of the reasons it's so good at bluffing Scarf is that a lot of times people don't really have an option. Even in that situation, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna, switch around, just check if it's Scarf. I mean, and switch to what? Ray, outsped an O-Code. Tina, same thing. Dialga, outsped too. And matter of fact, Palkia looks immensely threatening because look at how much of this team it outspeeds and just destroys at this point. Imagine if the Dialga was taking 3 layers of spikes and maybe even rocks at this point. So yeah, Palkia, massive threat. This game shows is showing that at least. And now he goes to the Dialga, which is just barely going to survive and take it back. But TSR goes to his Heatran, which eats a Draco, okay, decently. He gets to fire off a Lava Plume, but rocks are not harassing Tina O or Ray, which is letting them switch in a lot more easily and put pressure there. He makes the same double switch to Ray, maybe on a Protect from Heatran. That would have been a good move. He protected on the Giratina previously, but same Ray double switch, same logic, minus the DOS checking, but Heatran was more likely to protect there, so replace the cover the DOS switch with cover the Heatran protecting option. Anyway, here comes the Dialga, and this is also looking threatening with its Scarf, but if Extra's last is also a Scarf Dialga. Wait, no, not a Scarf Dialga. What am I talking about? Like a Scarf Chomp, then TSR's team is too battered because it weakened the wrong pokes while preserving the wrong pokes, and so he can't withstand the dragon moves well enough anymore. I mean, because Heatran is down to hazard, so the Draco Meteor launches and does a lot. So I mean, Palkia and Dialga could still bring this game home, but Extra's Dialga has been allowed to stay at too high health. So Tina O comes in here, good U-turn from Extra, bringing the KO back with Ray. I mean, just imagine if Rocks were up. Totally different game. And Heatran is sacrificed, and now Dialga's going to come in and take a million more hazard damage. I mean, taking a million hazard damage isn't that bad if your opponent also is, but when you don't have that, then you get this. So another Draco goes off, and it's going to take out the Dialga if in 2 hits, if not 1. And then Jirachi comes in again, and it just wants to Ice Punch here, so it doesn't U-turn around into another Dragon Weak Pokemon. Doesn't matter that it doesn't KO, because it 2 KOs, and I mean, worst case, you put it into priority range. And Palkia is in, Ray is going to come back, and because this is what happens when you don't get up rocks. Ray switches in and out and rips you apart. I mean, how many times has Ray switched in this game? Like 5 or something? That's insane. So it takes the Tina O out, and Palkia is going to succumb as well. So, that was the game. That was game 1, and now we move on to game number 2. So, Kyogre lead, another DOS lead. Could this be a Sash? Extra played DPP when it was the current gen, and that's when all the Deoxys were Sash. And I assume he's like read up on the new stuff, but he could also be running. I mentioned this a couple of videos ago. Like the old school Sash DOS has become the new school again, as we saw with Lesson's series. So would not be surprised at all. It goes right for spikes. So again, good policy. Get your spikes and rocks if you can. But he just goes right for the second layer, and TSR goes for. Well, that Thunder. Now, if you're gonna Water Spout and use it against Deoxys, use it on the first turn so you can KO it if it's not Sash. So that Thunder was definitely a waste. I mean, the second layer of spikes is not a backbreaker, but the Thunder was definitely wasteful. I mean, looking for the para, I don't know. I'd rather Water Spout and force it to be Sash rather than Thunder, and because Lum is more likely than Sash, and I didn't care for that. So Extra goes to Dialga, knowing he can get he can Thunder again as here's the classic. Water Spout looking to hit Dialga, setting up rocks, and he just goes for the Thunder and then gets up the rocks after. So that's the way to do it with Dialga. It is not running lefties, and it is clearly faster than the Kyogre. So it's an offensive rocks Dialga, which I also appreciate. So now that the Kyogre can't hurt it, I assume rocks are going to go up, and they do. And TSR is behind in the hazards game, and there's a Draco, and it does a little under half, but still a good chunk. And he's just going to keep barraging the... And, so now I don't know if I agree with that roar at all, because that was a very defensive roar in a situation where you didn't have to use the defensive roar. A situation where you have to use a defensive roar is this Pokemon is setting up and is really threatening me. And here, then, the roar is going to... the Dialga is... Oh, Yes, please keep playing. And I'm going to not... watch this ASMR thing, sorry, and skip to the music. So, Roar in this situation is going to bring in something faster than it's going to KO your chip Dialga. You want to be using the Dragon move here because the Dialga already did less than half to you, and, it's not going to hurt you unless it has something rare, like or not rare, but, like, make it have something like Brick Break or Outrage rather than just conceding no matter what Extra does. I mean, I guess he probably expected a switch, and he wanted to roar, but like, what was he gonna roar to? I mean, getting more damage and stealth rock damage? No, he's got to attack. He's got to do direct damage rather than mess around. He's too far behind with the hazards and taking so much damage on 2 Pokemon already. And in the event that Dialga does just stay in, then you get more chip on it. And chip that Dialga is not going to recover because it does not have lefties. And now, instead of that, then you have dragged in the Giratina O. That was probably predictable anyway. And the Dialga is out of range of like everything. So, yeah. And he now preserves the Dialga and goes to Groudon, which is going to sustain a ton of damage and is not exactly a Pokemon you chuck into Tina O. Unless it's like Stall or something and you really need a Toxic or T-Wave it or something, but it's just going to get Draco'd and I assume T-Wave it back. But so now the Dialga has been kept alive at low health with a bunch of hazards up and Groudon sacked. So basically half the team is dead and there's a lot of hazards up. And Extra's got... So it's 5-5, but 2 Pokemon basically dead. And, well, TSR does claim a KO now with his own Tina O. Against the Dialga, that's probably going to live the Draco and the Sneak. Okay, no, never. It doesn't live the Draco because it's a very I guess if it's a more offensive Dialga and a fully invested Tina O, then definitely not going to live from 70. I'm just so used to the bulky Dialgas. I mean, you saw that one that took 47. But yeah, so he gets a KO there at least, and the Tina and the good thing is there, as I do think Extra might have made a mistake because his Dialga is so clearly ridiculously threatening the TSR's team, whereas his own Dialga his own Giratina is not nearly as useful now that it's paralyzed. I get Shadow Sneak priority, but you're gonna have like a Scarf or a Swift Swimmer alongside Kyogre or something, so I don't know that you really need it that bad. I mean, we don't know his team yet, but I think Dialga would have been more useful than the paralyzed Giratina. Anyway, so in comes Ray again, and now it's going to, outspeed Dragon, and in comes Lugia. So good Ray answer, ostensibly, most of the time, and it gets crit, which is unfortunate, and it didn't have a lefty, so maybe it was that cool Trick Scarf Lugia again, which, fun, but, and the crit does blow and, like, pretty much nail in the coffin at this point, but... Unless the Mewtwo can really take over the game. I mean, that would have been cool to see the Trick Scarf Lugia, but I don't know. It's difficult to say because he was so behind already, and I mean, unless the remaining pokes just completely crumble to Ice Beam Psychic types. Well, Giratina O is gonna get off a Sneak before it gets KO'd, as Mewtwo has leftovers at least, so it's not getting chipped into oblivion. And great Shadow Sneak there from TSR. That was a really nice move. And does he do it again? Not quite. No, because if you Draco, if you draw a Draco, then you can just then Sneak on it. For I guess you don't necessarily want to take a fully powered Draco into a fully powered Sneak. Yeah, never mind, you definitely don't. But the first Draco was a very smart move. It was unexpected and really nicely done. So props to TSR for that one. And now I assume the Scarf Revenge Kill comes in. Yep, here comes Jirachi. And I think is this the same team as the first game? Yeah, I mean, that would be the double rocks thing. Anyway, so it just goes for Iron Head as Dialga is down and Giratina. And Ray comes in. Is he going to... Good move, Thunder, not, getting baited into EQ, and Ray would just be out of Shadow Sneak range, and fortunately he hits the Ray. So now the last is going to be revealed, and it is a Scizor. So this actually does not, it doesn't look, actually, no, it looks still pretty bad, because it's raining, so the Scizor is going to Pursuit, and this, I guess this Tina O could still have HP Fire. You don't usually see Thunder... Well, I guess he has Dual Weather, and in Dual Weather, it's less likely you run... it could have Will-O-Wisp or something, but he's just going to BP just to be less risky, and Thunder is not going to do anything. And, see, Dialga can't switch in any... Well, I mean, he preserved... No, that was smart, preserving the Tina O. And, hey, full paras, and now he gets lefties, as opposed to if he sacked and switched it in after... but the Bullet Punch is still going to take it out. So now he has to hope that... Well, no, he's just going to sweep with the Bullet Punch at this point because Mewtwo's in range. He has to hope for a full para here and recover. And he gets the recover off. So I guess it depends on how bulky this Mewtwo is on the physical side. And next Bullet Punch crits. So, yeah, that was probably deserved. So that was certainly a series. So thank you to both players. It was interesting to see some of the sets on display here. And... I always like seeing Ray tear stuff up. So, Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one.